Yeah, Static died at 33. That was deep. I'm in the studio. Steve Noah called me. I remember that like yesterday. Steve Noah called me. He like, yo, did you hear? He like, nigga, Static dead. What? I burst out in tears, man. That's my nigga. What you mean Static dead, man? Yeah, that changed, dog. You know, as a nigga, man.
In music, it happens over and over. An artist's greatest success often arrives only after their death. Otis Redding's Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Soulja Slim's Slow Motion, even Pop Smoke's debut album, all became hits only when the voices behind them were gone. Static Major seemed destined to break that cycle. By 2008, he had already written classics for Aaliyah and Ginuwine, and his collaboration with Lil Wayne on Lollipop was about to change hip-hop forever. The single would go diamond, win a Grammy, and launch Wayne into superstardom. But Static never lived to see it. Just days before the world heard the song, tragedy struck in a way no one could have predicted. This is the unfortunate tragedy of Static Major is beyond heartbreaking. Stephen Garrett Jr. was born on November 11, 1974, in Louisville, Kentucky. Raised in a musical family, he found his voice early in church, where his mother directed the choir. By the age of 3, he was already leading a 30-member choir in a televised performance of Trouble in My Way for a Sunday special called Sing Ye. As he grew older, Stephen's relationship with music began to change. Coming from Louisville's West End, he worried that being known as a singer might make him appear soft. During his teenage years, he turned his focus to rapping, keeping his singing hidden from most people outside of church. Still, he briefly formed a gospel group with local friends, battling other groups in the area. Some of the young talents he went up against in those early days would later become his future bandmates. Tragedy soon struck at home. Stephen's older sister, Melinda, suffered from pulmonary hypertension and was in desperate need of a rare heart-lung transplant. Only about 100 of these procedures are performed each year in the U.S., and Stephen grew frustrated with how poorly he felt the hospital treated her as her health declined. At just 22 years old, Melinda passed away, leaving behind a daughter. Her death devastated Stephen, leaving him with deep resentment toward the medical community in Louisville. In the aftermath, he began acting out at school and was eventually sent to the Burger King Academy, a program designed to help troubled youth find purpose through creative outlets like sports, art, and music. There, his talent stood out. He was invited to perform the national anthem at the school's national symposium, and his powerful delivery earned him a full scholarship to the University of Louisville to study music. It was around this time that Stephen reconnected with Jawan Peacock, who would later be known as Smokey, and Benjamin Bush, who became Digital Black. The two had already formed an R&B group called A Touch of Class and were searching for another member. After hearing Stephen sing, they quickly asked him to join, and he accepted. Not long after, Stephen adopted a new identity. Inspired by a line in Dr. Dre and Sam Snead's You Better Recognize, where Sam rapped about causing static in the industry, he decided to call himself Static. When he discovered other rappers were using the same name, he added Major, determined to make his mark in a big way. Before long, the group had a chance encounter with Devontae Swing of Jodeci, performing for him backstage at one of his shows. Impressed, Devontae promised to sign them once his new R&B hip-hop collective, Swing Mob, got off the ground. When he later heard the group's new lineup with Static included, he was even more convinced and set out to bring them under Elektra Records. At the same time, Static was struggling personally. According to his close friend Tim Barnett, who would later become his assistant, Static had stopped attending classes and was failing across the board. A car accident that wrecked his mother's only vehicle created further tension at home. Feeling stuck, he turned to Devontae, who flew him out to New Jersey in 1992 ahead of the other group members. There, Static was introduced to what would become one of the most influential creative circles in R&B and hip-hop. The collective included Timbaland and Magoo, Missy Elliott, then performing with her group Sista, Tweet with her group Suga, Genuine, and many more. Devante also brought in producers and engineers like Jimmy Douglas and Stevie J. They all lived and worked in a crowded two-story house in Rochester, New York. With more than 20 members creating music day and night in the basement, they became known as the Basement Crew. According to Digital Black, it was like a musical college. Everyone had something to offer, and just being in the same space helped each artist sharpen their skills. Devante quickly recognized that Static was different. He could rap, sing, and write, blending a melodic style that set him apart. More than that, he had a sharp eye for the business. Static noticed that it wasn't always the performers who profited the most. It was the songwriters and producers. While many of his peers focused on image and performance, he dedicated himself to songwriting. Devante eventually renamed the group Playa, saying the members had an old soul vibe and carried themselves like little players. Their time with the Basement Crew gave them valuable experience, but life inside Swing Mob was far from easy. Devante focused heavily on Jodeci's projects, and while members contributed to albums like Diary of a Mad Band and The Show, The After Party, The Hotel, most of their own music never saw the light of day. Money was tight, and Static once recalled nights of going hungry, surviving on noodles and water. Tensions also ran high. Devante and his entourage were known for violent outbursts, and as contracts expired, artists began leaving. Playa held out the longest before signing with Blackground Records under Jomo and Barry Hankerson. By 1997, they landed at Def Jam, a move that devastated Devante but opened new doors. Genuine found instant success with Pony, a song he, Timbaland, and Static had crafted years earlier, which went platinum worldwide and secured Static's first ASCAP award as a songwriter. Other Swing Mob alumni also took off, while Playa focused on their own debut. After some disagreements with Def Jam, they released Don't Stop the Music, which charted modestly. At the same time, Missy Elliott and Timbaland were rising fast, forming a super crew that included Aaliyah and Nicole Wray. Static co-wrote tracks for Timbaland and Magoo's debut, while Playa appeared in videos like Up Jumps Da Boogie and Nicole Wray's Make It Hot. The group's big moment came with their second single, Cheers to You. It became their signature hit, spending 20 weeks on the charts and reaching the R&B top 10. Still, poor promotion hurt their debut album. Released in March 1998, it featured Aaliyah, Missy, Mia, and Foxy Brown, but only reached number 86 on the Billboard 200. Critics praised the effort, yet fans still regard it as criminally underrated. After Def Jam gave their third single, All the Way, only a limited push, Playa leaned back into writing and producing. They contributed to Nicole Wray's debut and the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack, and Static co-wrote Genuine's Same Old G, appearing in the video alongside his bandmates. He also co-wrote and sang on several tracks from Genuine's 100% Genuine album, including the smash So Anxious, which reached number 2 on the R&B chart. Much of Playa's work went uncredited, but their fingerprints were everywhere. Static's greatest impact, however, came through his work with Aaliyah. Together, they created magic, beginning with Are You That Somebody for the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack. When Missy Elliott couldn't meet the last-minute deadline, Static stepped in and delivered one of the defining R&B songs of the late 90s. Steven, who had become a local heartthrob, faced heartbreak when his sister Melinda, suffering from pulmonary hypertension, was denied the chance for a rare heart-lung transplant. At only 22, she passed away, leaving behind a daughter. The loss shook Steven deeply, fueling his resentment toward Louisville's medical community. His grief spilled into school, where he acted out and was placed in the Burger King Academy, a program for troubled youth. There, his singing talent stood out, and after a stirring performance of the national anthem, he earned a full scholarship to the University of Louisville. Around this time, he reconnected with Jawan Peacock, later known as Smokey, and Benjamin Bush, later Digital Black. They had formed the group A Touch of Class and invited Steven to join. Soon after, he adopted the stage name Static, inspired by a line in Dr. Dre and Sam Snead's You Better Recognize. When others used the name, he added Major, determined to make his mark in a big way. Before the group had even solidified, they caught the attention of Devante Swing from Jodeci, performing for him backstage. Devante promised to sign them once his new collective, Swing Mob, took off. By 1992, Static, struggling with failing grades and tension at home after wrecking his mother's car, decided to take the leap. Devante flew him to New Jersey ahead of the others, setting the course for his career. At Swing Mob, Static entered a creative incubator unlike any other. Based in a crowded house in Rochester, New York, the so-called basement crew included future stars like Timbaland, Magoo, Missy Elliott with Sista, Tweet with Suga, and Genuine, alongside producers Jimmy Douglas and Stevie J. It was, as Digital Black recalled, like a musical college, with talent spilling from room to room. Devante quickly recognized Static's gift. He wasn't just a singer or rapper. His melodic flow and sharp instincts set him apart. More importantly, he understood the business. The real money came from writing and producing. While others worked on their image or vocals, Static perfected his songwriting craft. He rarely wrote lyrics down, instead building songs from melodies and harmonies that came naturally. Eventually, Devante renamed the group Playa, saying their old soul vibe made them seem like little players. The name stuck, and Static's path toward shaping R&B history was set. Life with the basement crew gave Playa valuable experience, but Swing Mob was far from perfect. Devante kept most of his energy focused on Jodeci, with members contributing heavily to albums like Diary of a Mad Band and The Show, The Afterparty, The Hotel. While some acts landed spots on soundtracks such as Above the Rim, Dangerous Minds, and The Nutty Professor, few saw their own projects released. Hundreds of songs recorded during that time remain unheard, and funding was so scarce that even food was a struggle. Static once recalled, "You just kind of broke. You hope somebody orders a pizza, or you wait until 7 or 8 p.m., eat that pack of noodles, then drink water from then on. You'd go to sleep early so you could forget about it. That's the worst feeling in the world, knowing you don't have nothing to eat." Tensions grew worse as Devante and his entourage lashed out violently at members of the collective. When contracts began to expire, artists left one by one. Playa stayed the longest, eventually joining Blackground Records under the management of Jomo and Barry Hankerson, Aaliyah's cousin and uncle. By 1997, they signed with Def Jam, a move that marked the end of their time with Devante. Others from the crew found immediate success. Genuine, for instance, broke through with Pony, a track he, Timbaland, and Static had crafted years earlier. The single went platinum in multiple countries, climbed to number 6 on the Hot 100, and won Static an ASCAP award, cementing his status as a songwriter. Playa, meanwhile, set to work on their own debut. Creative disagreements with Def Jam slowed their momentum, and their first single, Don't Stop the Music, peaked at number 73 on the Hot 100 and number 26 on the R&B chart, a modest showing. At the same time, Missy Elliott and Timbaland were soaring, forming a super crew that included Aaliyah and Nicole Wray. Static co-wrote tracks on Timbaland and Magoo's Welcome to Our World, and Playa appeared in the video for Up Jumps Da Boogie alongside the whole crew. In 1998, they also appeared in Nicole Wray's Make It Hot video, with Missy introducing Playa as last but definitely not least. Excitement grew for their official debut, and their second single, Cheers to You, delivered. The song reached number 38 on the Hot 100, climbed to number 10 on the R&B chart, and stayed on the charts for 20 weeks. Its smooth vocals and Timbaland-driven beat perfectly captured the late 90s R&B sound. Impressively, all 3 group members contributed to the writing and production across the album, giving it an authentic feel. Released in March 1998, the album featured guest appearances from Aaliyah, Missy Elliott, Magoo, and Foxy Brown. Critics praised it as a strong effort, but Def Jam's lack of promotion held it back. The record peaked at number 86 on the Billboard 200 and number 19 on the R&B/hip-hop chart. Songs like Top of the World, I-65, and All the Way stood out to fans, but the latter, slated as the third single, never received a proper push. For many, it became clear that Playa's talent outshined the label's support. Playa's debut album struggled to make an impact. It peaked at number 86 on the Billboard 200 and number 19 on the R&B/hip-hop albums chart, selling around 184,000 copies in the U.S. by 2006. While critics called it a promising effort and hoped the group would fare better next time, Def Jam was disappointed. Even devoted fans admit the project was criminally underrated. The label gave their single All the Way only a limited release with no video or promotion, stalling the momentum. With their own project on shaky ground, Static and his bandmates returned to what they did best, writing and producing for others. They worked on Nicole Wray's debut and contributed to the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack with the song Your Dress. Static also co-wrote and sang on Ginuwine's hit Same Old G, appearing in the video alongside Playa. He became deeply involved in Ginuwine's 100% Ginuwine album, co-writing and performing on several tracks, including the standout hit So Anxious, which climbed to number 2 on the R&B chart. Much of Playa's work appeared in Ginuwine's music, though they were often left uncredited. Static's greatest breakthrough came through his collaborations with Aaliyah. Their creative chemistry was immediate, beginning with Are You That Somebody for the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack. The song, pulled together on short notice, turned into a smash hit, earning Aaliyah a Grammy nomination and cementing Static as her go-to writer whenever Missy Elliott wasn't available. The two became close collaborators as she developed her third album, and according to Static's mother, their relationship briefly crossed into romance before they chose to remain friends. By 1998, Static was touring with Aaliyah, Timbaland, and Ginuwine. During a Kentucky Derby stop in his hometown, he noticed a young woman named Avante. At first, she resisted his advances, wary of entertainers, but after repeated encounters, she gave him a chance. Their connection grew quickly, and they married on September 10, 1999. Together, they built a family, raising 3 children as well as a niece whom Static took in. Though he thrived as a songwriter, he always placed fatherhood first, preferring home life over the spotlight. Even while focused on family, his pen remained unstoppable. Between 1998 and 2000, Static stacked major credits: Nas's single You Owe Me, Jay-Z's Change the Game, where he also sang the hook, and the Timbaland remix of Destiny's Child's #1 hit, Say My Name, where Static wrote and performed the male ad-libs. When Aaliyah prepared for her film Romeo Must Die, the soundtrack became a platinum success. While Timbaland and Aaliyah led much of the project, Static's handprints were everywhere. He co-wrote all 3 singles from the album. The first, Try Again, made history as the first song to reach #1 on airplay alone, earning Aaliyah her first chart topper and a Grammy nomination, as well as giving Static his first #1 as a songwriter. He also co-wrote Back in One Piece with DMX and rapped the hook on Timbaland and Magoo's We At It Again, even appearing in the video alongside Aaliyah, Missy Elliott, and Playa. Playa's own track, Woozy, also made the cut, and Static added more credits with Ginuwine's Simply Irresistible and Shanice's This Is a Test. In 2000, Aaliyah traveled to Australia to film Queen of the Damned and invited Static and his team to join her for 2 months of recording. For Static, it was surreal, flying first class across the equator far from his Louisville beginnings. Along with Black, Budda, J-Dub, and Key Beats, Eric Seitz, and Rapture Stewart, he helped shape the sound of what would become her final album. At that point, Timbaland and Missy Elliott were at odds with Aaliyah's uncle Barry Hankerson and did not initially take part, leaving Static to step up. He polished earlier songs like Rock the Boat and Loose Rap, the latter featuring him on vocals, creating a fresh direction for Aaliyah's music. Back in the States, Barry Hankerson cut a deal with Timbaland, bringing him back into the project. Static and Aaliyah traveled to Manhattan to work with him on 3 new songs: We Need a Resolution, Don't Know What to Tell You, and More Than a Woman. 2 made the album, and all were standout tracks. Static often recorded demos that mimicked the intended artist, and his early versions of More Than a Woman revealed how much his writing evolved before final production. By the time Aaliyah's self-titled album was released in the summer of 2001, Static had written or co-written 10 of the 15 tracks. His groupmate Digital Black also contributed, penning You Got Nerve and Messed Up, and Static recorded a duet with Aaliyah called Don't Think They Know, which years later would be reimagined by Chris Brown. Through that summer, Static and Playa accompanied Aaliyah on her promo appearances and shoots, standing beside her during what should have been the peak of her career. On August 25, 2001, tragedy struck. After filming the video for Rock the Boat, Aaliyah was killed in a plane crash at just 22 years old. The news devastated Static and the rest of the Super Friends crew. For a long time, they couldn't even bring themselves to watch the video or listen to the music they had made with her. Eventually, though, those songs became part of the grieving process. Later that year, Timbaland released I Am Music, featuring himself, Static, and Aaliyah, a heartfelt ode to their shared passion. Blackground also issued the compilation I Care For You, filled with unreleased tracks from her sessions, including Don't Know What to Tell You, co-written by Static. One of the lesser-known songs tied to those sessions was Erica Kane. Originally written and recorded by Playa as a metaphor linking the drug epidemic to the soap opera character Erica Kane, the track was dismissed by both Def Jam and Blackground. But after Aaliyah recorded her own version, the label chose to include it on posthumous releases, recognizing its brilliance too late. Static and Playa also appeared in Aaliyah's videos, offering their last tributes to the artist who had inspired and elevated them all. At the time of her passing, Playa had been working on their second album, Throwback Legends. Fueled by the reminder of how short life could be, the group poured themselves into the project, promoting the single Never Too Late in 2003. The track built excitement among fans and even appeared on Universal samplers. Yet, despite the buzz, it failed to chart. Industry mergers and label shakeups ultimately left the album shelved. Digital Black would later call it the dopest R&B album never heard. With Playa's future uncertain, the members went their separate ways. Static, however, was determined to step forward as a solo artist. He launched his own label, Swap Music, through Universal and Blackground, signing local talent and preparing his debut album, Supper Time on the 50 Side. "It's time for me to eat," he explained. After years of putting his artistry on hold for songwriting and production, he was ready to take the spotlight. Static didn't hold back on his ambition. "I'm coming after R. Kelly and Usher," he declared, confident that his resume already spoke volumes. The album, he promised, would be a fresh mix of street and soul, OG music, with contributions from Timbaland, Dr. Dre, Scott Storch, and Pharrell. For Static, it was finally time to step into the space he had long been building toward. Before his debut album was set to drop, Static released a free mixtape titled Volume 1, featuring Lil Flip, Cassidy, and Playa across 8 tracks. It gave fans a taste of what was coming, but the album itself never materialized. His assistant later gave interviews about why the release fell apart, though those accounts have since disappeared. The reasons remain unclear, only that the project stalled. For Static, who had helped deliver massive success to others but struggled to replicate it with Playa or on his own, the disappointment stung. Still, he always returned to what he did best, writing hits. He penned songs for JoJo, Jamie Foxx, Sunshine Anderson, Brandy, and Solange Knowles. When Pretty Ricky rose to fame, they turned to Static for guidance. Drawing from his years with Devante and Jodeci, he helped shape their sound, writing much of their first two albums, including the platinum singles Grind With Me and On the Hotline. He even lent his vocals to tracks like Juicy and featured the group on his own Ride Till the Wheels Fall Off. When Pleasure P left Pretty Ricky to go solo, Static followed, writing for his debut project, including the standout Illusion, a song many still prefer in Static's original demo form. Even as he worked for others, Static continued pushing his solo career. He signed a new deal with Blackground Records, leaked songs on MySpace to keep fans engaged, and released a video for Bus Stop Breezy. In 2007, he linked up with Lil Wayne for an early collaboration, and by 2008, he had written most of what would become Wayne's breakthrough single, Lollipop. Static knew the record would be big. For Wayne, already a veteran with hits like Go DJ, the track would become the lead single from The Carter 3, catapulting him into global superstardom. For Static, it was supposed to be the launch of the solo career he had always dreamed of. Static and Wayne filmed the lavish video together, riding in limousines, surrounded by women, champagne flowing. But during the shoot, Static developed a cough that worsened over the following days. Afterward, he returned home to perform at a Valentine's Day cabaret in Louisville, his final show, before heading to Atlanta to continue recording. His health, however, spiraled. He called his wife, Avante, saying he felt dizzy, weak, and couldn't open one eye. Static had avoided hospitals ever since losing his sister, but Avante insisted he seek help. Reluctantly, he went to a clinic, where doctors diagnosed him with acid reflux. When Static flew back to Louisville, his wife Avante was alarmed to see him wheeled off the plane, frail and weak. On February 25, 2008, he was admitted to Baptist Hospital East after struggling to breathe. His right eye had begun to droop, and he couldn't swallow. Doctors suspected a stroke, but after tests, he was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis, a rare autoimmune disorder that causes severe muscle weakness. The recommended treatment was plasmapheresis, a procedure involving a catheter inserted through the neck and chest to cleanse the blood. Stephen, still haunted by memories of his sister's medical struggles, resisted the idea. "I'm not feeling them messing with my arteries," he said. But doctors assured him he would feel better within 24 hours. The plan was to insert the line that evening and perform surgery the next morning. Before Avante left to gather things from a list he had prepared, Stephen asked to see his children. Holding his 4-year-old daughter Mari on his lap, he cried quietly. When she asked why, he told her everything would be okay. After a nurse cleared the room, Avante felt compelled to return briefly. She pulled back the curtain, grabbed his hand, and kissed him goodbye. His mother stayed at his side. What happened next was later described by Avante in a radio interview. The doctor had threaded the catheter incorrectly, puncturing a vein. He had performed the procedure blindly rather than using a scope, and then left the hospital. When Stephen began to complain of chest pain, his mother alerted a nurse who called the doctor. Over the phone, he instructed her to remove the line until it could be redone the next day. Pulling a newly placed line was extremely dangerous. As soon as it was removed, blood filled Stephen's chest. Nurses hesitated before calling a code, and by the time they acted, it was too late. Static Major bled internally and died at just 33 years old. The news hit Louisville and the music world hard. At his funeral, held in a packed sanctuary with standing room only, friends and family remembered Stephen Garrett not as a flashy celebrity, but as a humble man who preferred to stay in the background. A gold casket carried him to his final rest, while peers like Tank and countless others came to pay respects. Locally, many realized only then how many songs he had been behind. Hits for Aaliyah, Genuine, Timbaland, Missy Elliott, and Jodeci. In the days that followed, reports circulated that he had died of a brain aneurysm or cardiac arrest. But his family, including his bandmate Smokey, clarified that it was purely the result of medical negligence. Avante filed a lawsuit against Baptist Hospital East and the surgeon involved, alleging malpractice. The case was later settled out of court. Weeks later, Lollipop premiered on BET's Access Granted, dedicated to Static's memory. The single became a massive hit, propelling Lil Wayne to superstardom, winning Grammys and VMAs. Yet Static's role was rarely acknowledged publicly. Wayne mentioned him only briefly, and fans were left frustrated that his name was absent from major award speeches. Still, Static's influence refused to fade. In 2009, Playa's surviving members released a compilation of demos and unreleased tracks. Drake, who cited Static as a major influence, sampled his vocals on Look What You've Done from Take Care, and later used his voice again on After Dark from Scorpion. Posthumous songwriting credits for Static appeared on $AP Rocky's F*** Kin Problems in 2013, thanks to his unreleased Aaliyah collaboration, Quit Hatin'. Avante worked to honor her husband's legacy through the Save a Life Foundation and by founding Major Styles Entertainment, with plans to release more of his music. Louisville artists like Bryson Tiller and Jack Harlow also paid tribute, reworking his unreleased Love is DRO into a new anthem, complete with a video filmed in his hometown and Avante present on set. Over the years, Static's pen has continued to echo through music. His songs have been sampled by T.I., Lil Kim, David Banner, Kanye West, Rihanna, and many more. He left behind a staggering catalog of over 1,000 unreleased songs, including collaborations with Beyoncé, Janet Jackson, Trey Songz, Bobby Valentino, and Jessica Simpson. Though he preferred to stay out of the spotlight, his music was everywhere. Even in death, the work of Stephen Static Major Garrett continues to live on, timeless proof of a talent that was always present, even if often overlooked.